Greetings. My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks, Sr., your host, and this is Lake County Community Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an outstanding professional with us this evening, Mrs. Elizabeth Jackson. She's a retired nurse, and she is a person that you should know. Greetings, Mrs. Jackson.
Hello, Dr. Brooks. How are you?
We're very happy that you've taken time literally from your busy schedule to be with us on Community Forum. I'd just like to mention, I have to do this, that we met about a year ago in North Chicago at, it's Dr. Martin Luther King Drive. I think Mr. James Sisson, a local person, had a backpack giveaway for youngsters. And we were sitting at a table, and your grandson was sitting there, and he impressed me so much, and I could tell that he must have gotten it from you. You know, after talking with you, you were a great trainer. Tell us a little bit about him. I don't want to take the whole time talking about it, but he's such a professional at 15 years of age. And I'd like for you just to mention his accomplishment.
Well, the Bible says you teach them.
Okay.
You teach them the way, and life begins at conception. So if you're teaching that child from in utero, when they're born, they automatically, it's amazing when they're in when you're in the delivery room, how they look around for the voices because they already recognize them.
Okay.
And you just keep flowing to that child, the reality that he's going to be in, and answer the questions that he asks. Because if they've asked the questions, they're receiving. All wisdom comes from God. And if you have a functional pineal gland, you're receiving wisdom all the time. It's the quiet voice that speaks. And we all have angels of God, and they also speak in a quiet voice. That's not only in the Bible, but it's in the pyramid text, which is millions of years old. And it usually flows with some of the things in the Bible, because we only got fragments in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do a segment on that to show you just how fragmented it is, because we're going to go over a lot of things that are missing that's going to shock you.
Okay, well, I'd just like to just mention that Coleman was his name. Was it?
Yeah.
What's the first name?
Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher Coleman, yes. He received a scholarship to a well-known private high school in the country.
Yes.
But was that Exeter
Yeah.
Academy?
Yeah.
And actually, at the academy, he's been doing an outstanding job too, right?
Yes. Yeah. He's
you see, that was
he's taking up all kinds of things. The first summer he went, he was just 13. And
okay.
They were so impressed by him, they gave him a full ride scholarship. Yeah.
Right.
But he took 5 languages his first semester. And, I think they were rather shocked because he went to a public school. Right. You got kids from 32 different countries, and you got the top computer guy in China, in computers, the top one in math, and 32 different countries.
Okay.
So, that's saying a lot when most of the kids are from private schools.
Right. Very good. Okay, I tell you what, I have only about 6 questions to ask you, and I want to make sure I cover those.
Okay.
But, the first one is, what are the continued effects of the Willie Lynch letter? We've heard so much about the Willie Lynch letter.
Yeah.
1712, I think it was.
1712 by the river.
Right.
But anyway, the Willie Lynch letter was made to, it was the making of a slave.
Mm.
And it really worked on the male, because without the head of a house, a body without a head is pretty helpless
Okay.
and unprotected. So those are the two terms, that you're going to think most of. And if the doctrines were incorporated correctly, it would last 300 years,
Mm.
and it's put on an axis. So each generation will reproduce what you've taught the prior generation. And they said it can last a minimum of 300 years, and it could last for thousands. That's why you have police brutality, or sometimes they come into communities or plant drugs and all kinds of things in the community to keep that axis revolving.
Willie Lynch stated, and he told the slave owners, if you use this procedure on your slaves intensively for 1 year, you will have them under control perpetually.
Right, right. And it worked so well, Dr. Brooke. Eventually, it was outlawed. You remember when they had the projects in Chicago, and the people were becoming so subhuman that they had to do some changes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
uh-huh. So
And the
it,
Mayan calendar, incidentally, goes to 2012.
mm,
And so now you have a period of awakening where Blacks all over the world are starting to wake up out of their snooze. And they're starting to do their own research. They're starting to seek and find the truth.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because Carter G. Woodson stated that about the miseducation of the Negro, too, right?
Right, right. And it's really heavy. And I just want to bring out that there are laws that prevent certain books from ever being exposed to Black people. And I have a list of those.
Mm.
And you give me a minute, I'll just go over several of them with you. And from Thomas Paine to Angela Davis,
Mm-hmm.
like one is The People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, American Revolution, Pages from a Negro's Worker's Notebook by James Boggs, and Die Nigger Die by a Political Autobiography by Ralph Brown. And then you have Prology of Oppressed by Paula Flair, and you have How to Master Secret Work by the Communist Party of South Africa, apartheid.
Right, right.
And then you have African Slavery in America by Thomas Paine, 1775. And like I say, you got books by, you got more things by Willie Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, let's see, it's so many letters and writings by all kinds of authors, but one that really got me are the ones that's oppressed by James Baldwin, and we said Angela Davis, and by Frederick Douglass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of his books on freedom we're not allowed to ever see. And there's tons of books on oppression and communists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Communist is to control your mind.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I noticed that the Egyptians had control over I guess it was the Israelites for over 400 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me tell you the real story of that. And I'm going to show you documents on this. Because
Okay.
I've been praying about it, and God's revealed so many documents in secret places. It's unbelievable. You have to print them out because you go back, it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
But the Hyksos ruled Egypt from for 511 years.
Okay.
So a lot of things in this Bible that we have now throws all of that stuff together. So it's just talking Egyptians. So people don't realize who they're referring to.
Mm.
The Hyksos were the Amorites, the Hittites, the Ebionites, and some other minor tribes, the 10 tribes with the 10 cities that were destroyed along with Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities of the plain. When invaders took that over, it was eventually totally destroyed, the cities of the plain. And Elba was one of those. And that was a region where the Amorites were. But these are stories for other days, because let me tell you, it's heavy and it is a lot, because it represents thousands of years. Yeah. But see, people don't realize that they invaded Egypt from Third Dynasty and they reduced them to rags. You had 70 kings in 70 days. So a lot of the writings that were found by pharaohs were written by unknown pharaohs. They didn't even have time to put their Katish on it before they were killed with surprise raids and so forth. So they finally took over and they ruled different segments for 511 years. Queen Kamoses, that you rarely hear anything about it. And what was his name? Synopsis took up the southern region about 1800s BC. And the ones he exposed there end up going to Babylon. And that's when King Harabi was reported by some of the unknown pharaohs as starting a kingdom there. I mean, I think it was a couple or so kings before him, but he was the one to stabilize it with rules that they said that he borrowed from Egypt. They said that in their writings. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of writings on Hammurabi's rules that he wrote in Babylon, but you never see any of ours from Egypt.
Well, we see what Elizabeth Taylor, I guess, say, wait a minute,
Yeah, and the Bible has a lot to say about all the falsehood and all the stuff going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So here, another one, how were millions of years of Black history omitted from school curriculum and history?
Yes, it is. Because most people know Satan from the Garden of Eden.
Right.
That's where it stops. But they don't know all of the things that's still going on today were also going on at that time. He was the creator of it all. If you read John 8:44, it somewhat states that. Okay. And Revelations 2:9. They pretty much tell you that. But back to the Willie Lynch letter, what it did was what they wanted to do was omit the mind and keep the body.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's why you have Blacks, who a lot of them, but you also had a lot of indigenous Blacks here in America who fought for those rights and whatever, and they went through slavery and they went through the motion, but they had learned to read in English and everything else, and they started a lot of books. And I don't know what happened to all of those books, but I had a lot of great aunts that were teachers. And out from like 2 to 4, I saw a lot of those books. And I know a lot of things that were in them, but if I was older, I'm sure I would get a lot more out of them. But I did see a lot of the works, like after slavery, you had Blacks going into Congress, going to Harvard and Yale, and graduating and coming out with all kinds of outstanding things. And then you had the Klan established in different places and a different kind of oppression. So the Willie Lynch letter was just a part of really thousands of years in different processes. It was just the process that we used at that time.
Why was such a great effort used to keep blacks illiterate?
Africa is the wealthiest country in the world.
Okay.
The Congo alone, and that's the one to watch because everybody's going to be using satellites and looking for treasures there and a way to take it over. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of treasures or thousands of undiscovered tombs in Egypt being unearthed by the Arabs or the invaders there. Because Babylon, when the Bible said Babylon is falling, Babylon includes all of those subgroups. They all came together as the Hyksos. So, which means when Babylon falls, the Bible tells you that they became the Greeks, they became the Romans, they became the Europeans. So the Europeans became the Americans. So when Babylon falls, that's when it's telling you, and Babylon will fall. That's why I use that one word, because it covers all of those bases.
Then we see blacks all over the world, right?
Yeah, I have pictures of all the indigenous blacks all over the world. For billions of years, we were the only ones. Well, I don't want to jump the gun to why the pyramids were built, but we'll get there and I'll tell you more about it.
Okay. Wow. So, there's probably more people like you able to quote phrases from the pyramid text, right?
Yeah, because I heard my great grandparents quoting them. And, at 4 and 5, I was trying to learn to read the Bible. My great grandfather, who had been a slave, taught me that you memorize everything. You don't have to worry about someone miseducating you. They knew about that then. And so a lot of his older girls, he had 27 children.
Wow.
He outlived 3 wives, 27. And the girls could quote whole books without missing a word. My great grandfather could quote the whole Bible, and his Bible was different, didn't have a New Testament in it, because he told me that the Old Testament was our history. And that's what they grew up on for generations and generations. That goes back to the pyramid text millions of years ago. So a lot of them who were enslaved for a generation, his father was born in Africa in 1825, came through Fort Sumter in the 1840s. Fort Sumter was built by 500 slaves and designed by slaves, because they were great seafarers for hundreds of thousands of years, and there's records on that. They found an ancient boat in Khufu's tomb. But they were great seafarers. And my great grandfather Bible had many maps, and they're not like the maps of today. But you could see, the outline of Africa was accurate, and it had different maps from different periods of time. And they had different names, like Asia and Arabia in the early times were all called the land of Kush. The British changed the name after Napoleon was defeated and run out of Africa. Then the British took over, and they're the ones that named it the Middle East. So that was around 1800. I'm not real good with dates, but somewhere around there. And so, but there's many, many books on them. When I was a little kid, they wouldn't pay that much attention to me in the library. They figured I didn't know how to read. So I would sneak books in with all the books that I would take home. And for many years, I would read a book a day. I would be up
Mm.
with the flashlight reading under the covers. And my mom couldn't understand why I couldn't get up in the morning. But I would read and read. And I think I was led to do that because I would just go to certain books and the information would be there. And it's like, you know, I pray for the answer for something and it just sort of pop up. And it's been the answer that I've been shown, but sometimes you want to know more about it, you know.
Mhm, mhm. You mentioned about the two oldest books in the Bible,
Yes.
and
One is the Dzyan, and it's a religious book. And they discovered this in Tibet. And they said it is at least 1,000,000 years old. And then the pyramid text is older than that because it mentions the writings of that book.
mhm, mhm.
And that's where the Bible comes from.
Okay,
Just about everything that you find in the Bible is all in the pyramid text.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
We have here, oh boy, and a a young lady. I call her young lady. They call Lucy, and Lucy the is the oldest woman in the world. I guess the only
The
person
oldest one found.
found. Okay, all right. That come through your research, right? Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And she could have been when they were, you know, at first man, um, I have to define some words for you. God. It can either be spelled with a small g
Okay.
or a capital G. The small g can represent fallen angels, angels, demons, or man before his life was cut to 1,000 years. That's why you'll see some of the ancient pharaohs. And we're going to eventually do that. And I'm going to show you names of pharaohs that
Okay.
ruled over 300,000 years plus.
Mm.
And we'll talk about all of those details. But but it's just so much history that you have to sort of break it down.
And we just can't do it in 30 minutes, right?
No, no, and I don't want to confuse people, you know, by telling you a little bit that doesn't make sense without the rest of it. But the little God, that's what that represents. And then you have a God who is God of all of it and who made it all.
Mhm. Okay.
And he is a God of truth. And that's written in the pyramid text because blacks all over the world worship one God. Don't let nobody fool you. And I've interviewed lots of Indians, and they said, no, my great grandparents only worship one God. And I found it in the pyramid text. So that seals all of that, not just the interviews, and even the Mayans.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
But
Uh,
there were some who had other idol gods, including Abraham's father. You know, he made them, but he knew better
mhm, mhm,
because they like toys, just like men like toys now. They
mhm.
like toys, and Satan was the first one to create idol gods, like your half man, half horse, your half female and half mare with the bow and arrow. You know, that was created millions of years ago. Or the disc with the wings
Mhm.
that you see in North Asia. All of those were created by Satan to throw man off. The garden was not his first deceit. It was one of many and many. And we're going to talk about some of them because then you'll understand what's going on now.
Mhm.
Because nothing's really changed. One thing my great grandparents told me, don't ever think that anything you see or hear is new, because there is nothing that has not been done before. The ancient Egyptians from hundreds of thousands of years ago wrote about the solstice. That's 3,300 years of study by 3,000 mathematicians that are male and 300 female.
Hmm.
All opinions were considered, and they studied the sunspots and its effects on the earth. And they studied all the planets and the whole solar system because man was made. If you ever seen the movie Avatar, it does a good job of showing original man was synced with the air, the wind, the earth, and the universe, air and water, and with God. They were in sync. So when you start destroying animals in nature because they had totems, you were even connected, more connected with the animal that had your personality. That's what the totems were about.
Hmm.
It's really heavy.
Oh,
The spiritual, it's very heavy, and those are topics for other days.
well, why does the truth set free, but lies hold bondage?
Well, my great grandparents used to put it this way, that you build on a solid rock,
Mm-hmm.
and all other ground is sinking sand.
Right.
And John 8:44 says that Satan was the father of lies
Okay.
and murder. And really, he was the first one to do empires,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is another state of genocide. And Troy was destroyed by Satan. People don't realize that. And there was a queen that he sent on a wild goose chase in order to turn the nations against each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. It's a lot written because each pharaoh wrote everything. It was very important. And they wrote it, like my great grandparents say, it's written in stone.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is written in stone. They would always tell me that. And so my great grandparents, one was great great grandparent, one was indigenous from Africa, the other one was indigenous from America. So they knew their history.
Mm-hmm.
But they said no one was interested in their history. They wrote their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that tells me a lot right there. And that's what started my work of searching every place I could to know the truth.
Well, the scripture tells us that His word will I hide in my heart, and you mentioned that because you have all this where you can quote and you can divulge, and
I've been doing it since before I started school.
right.
Yeah.
And this will we just what is it illegal to put this in the schools? They want to hide this from
Well, the Willie Lynch letter wouldn't work if you knew what was happening to you. You just block it.
Okay.
My people shall perish for lack of knowledge
Right.
and void of natural understanding, because they don't even understand what's happening to them.
And you've been
The genocide, none of that would work if I knew.
right.
I wouldn't perish if I had the wisdom.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we've been talking with Mrs. Elizabeth Jackson, a retired nurse, but she's well versed in many topics. And we're going to have her again, and next time for an extended time, and so that she can promulgate more information to us, because we're still sleeping.
Yeah, we're still sleeping, but people are waking up. And a lot of people, when you're talking, they'll say, I know you're telling the truth because I remember my grandparents saying something like that, but I didn't understand. Knowledge without understanding is void.
Yeah.
And even though some of us have heard the quotes, we didn't put all the dots and cross all the T's, because of when you go through your school, even though they're rated a 1, you're proud to get that paper.
Right, right.
And even though you got a number one instead of a 10 school, you're still proud of it.
We
But
want
how
to,
much wisdom do you have?
yeah. Thank you so much. Again, we're gonna have to have you again soon to elaborate more on your readings, your revelations to us, because it's well needed, and it's gonna be shocking for people to hear this, and they're gonna be craving for more.
Yeah, because most of the world is mixed. So, a lot of people will never tell you, but DNA tests will tell you that most of us are mixed. You can't judge because that's up to God.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we've been talking with Miss Elizabeth Jackson on Lake County Community Forum. We're going to have her again very. It's the song say soon and very soon. We're going to have you very soon. Thank
You
you.
named the time, Dr. Brooke and Jim. It's a pleasure working with you guys.
Yeah, thank you for viewing another awareness session on Lake County Community Forum. My name is Dr. Wadell Brooks Sr., your host.